All right, let's go to the next subject before the closing remarks, before the closing panels. Honored to have another very, very important in all these decentralized networks. We're going to talk about delegates and delegation from L2Beat. Thank you so much, Anastasi.
Thank you so much. Hello. So my presentation, I'm going to talk about professional delegates, what they are, why we need them, and how one can be a professional delegate. Where's the slide? Here's the slide. So I'm Anastasi Konomopoulos, also known as Sinkas in the digital realm, and I work as a governance representative at L2Beat. I'm going to give a brief presentation of what L2Beat is, why and how we participate in governance, and then I'm going to touch on the core of the presentation, which is what is a professional delegate, why we need them, and how to be one. So L2Beat, what is L2Beat? L2Beat is a public goods company, so I'm not going to spend time shilling it. We're not offering a paid product or service. It's free for everybody to use. It's an open source good. It's public at L2Beat.com. And what we do is, among other things, we research and analyze different EVM layer 2s and bridges. And the core component of what we do is we look at the code, not the marketing material, the documentation, or the white paper. So as the tagline says, trust the code, not claims. We develop transparency solutions like explorers. We put together reports. We recently released one on Polygon. And of course, we participate in governance. Now, the way we do that is L2Beat has a governance team presenting of myself and Christoph, my colleague, and we participate in governance to ensure that we help steer those protocols towards a more decentralized, secure, trustworthy, but trustless future. Our participation in governance is, we use in these core values as our North Stars. We believe in transparency and open communication, and that's why we lead some of the initiatives that I'll talk about later in the presentation. We have inclusiveness at our heart. We believe crypto protocols and by extension DAOs themselves should be open to participation for everybody under a shared set of standards. And we have community focus. We put community first over any sort of individual interest, either financial or otherwise. And of course, we believe everybody should be accountable, since decentralization without accountability can quickly lead to chaos. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have a governance team which we represent L2Beat with in the governance of various protocols. Some of the DAOs we participate in are Optimism, Arbitrum, Starknet, Uniswap, Connext, Polygon, and Hop. The most important ones, or the ones that we spend most time at right now, is Optimism and Arbitrum, and they're one of the biggest L2s on Ethereum. And what makes us, essentially our participation in the governance makes us a professional delegate. Now, a professional delegate is basically somebody who works full-time on the governance of these protocols, and he gets paid to do that. It could be paid either directly by the DAO they're contributing to through grants, frameworks, or working groups, or they could be paid by an entity that they represent. For example, I'm paid by L2Beat, so that is that. Now, why do we need professional delegates? To cover that question, I'll break it up into 3 separate questions, which is why we need delegates in the first place, and we'll talk about public goods to explain that. Then I'll go into open source software, which will help us understand why we need the right delegates. And lastly, I'll talk about governance apathy, which can help us understand why we need full-time delegates and not just people contributing part-time. So governance of public goods, right? You can think about something as the road network, public roads that we all use every day. We are not, it belongs to everybody, right? It's open source, it's a public good. We are all paying for them through taxes, but you will not see me out there in the street fixing a pothole. Well, it's Greece, so you might actually see me do that, but typically you won't. So the way we maintain those roads is that we have delegated authority. Is the mic? Okay. We've delegated the authority to the elected government, and they in turn have delegated that maintenance of the roads to either private companies or contractors. And they do that because they have expertise to do it, they have higher context, and overall I cannot spend time working on roads when I have my family to take care of or myself. So then we'll go into open source software to help understand why we need the right delegates. And open source software began as a movement and as a revolution against the monopoly of software by big tech companies. It was started in 1998 by Richard Stallman, and the idea was that they will start contributing to software publicly and in an open source way to help shape a different direction than the one big tech companies were taking. But what happened to open source software since the 1990s? Nowadays, you will see big corporations like the one they were supposed to start a movement against being among the top contributors, if not the top contributor at open source software, right? You can think of Microsoft with GitHub, you can think of Google and Chromium and Android, or you can think of Amazon and Amazon Web Services. So it turns out that being a delegate and participating in governance is not just about voting, it's being culturally aligned with the values of the movement we helped create. In open source software, that was creation of open source software and shaping or taking the direction that the community wanted and not the one that big wanted. And being a delegate in DAOs is about helping shape up the frameworks and the processes that will help ensure that these DAOs are remain decentralized and autonomous and are not captured, in a sense, by big corporations when they inevitably show up. So how why we need full-time delegates is the reason that to mitigate governance apathy. And governance apathy can come in two forms. It can come from lack of participation in delegates, and it can come from lack of participation from constituents, which is the people delegating tokens to delegates. So I want to do a quick raise of hands. Is there anybody here a delegate in any DAO? All right, just one or two. Is anybody here delegating tokens to someone in a DAO? All right, so how many of you from the 2 or 3 people that raised their hands have redelegated their tokens since they claimed them or got them? So you delegated to somebody and then you didn't move them. Chances are nobody. And that's a big factor for delegation. So a delegate might not be active at all. So they might claim tokens or be a delegate, they get tokens delegated to them, and then they just forget about it or they lose interest and they don't want to participate anymore. Or they could be participating but not very actively, not having context of what they are voting for, not knowing the developments of the DAO or the protocol they are representing, voting without transparency and maybe hiding conflict of interests. So that's kind of like some of the things that comes from governance apathy from delegates. And constituent or people delegating tokens might either not delegate their voting power again from inactive delegates. So even though the tokens exist in the votable supply, they don't actually participate in governance, so they're not used. Or they might be delegating to somebody who doesn't represent their interest either anymore, or they never did. So our take is to try and be a professional delegate, which is not like an official term. It's something that we're trying to explore and help define. And how to be a professional delegate, some key points and high-level thoughts is stay up to date with new developments either on the DAO or the protocol you're representing. Be transparent when you're voting and sharing your rationale with your constituents and the broader DAO. Proactively participate in discussions happening. Thank you. Sorry, previous slide. So stay up to date with new developments, as I said, participate, be transparent when voting, and then proactively participate in discussions or initiatives happening in the DAO. So, that could be working groups or it could be new initiatives being discussed by the DAO before going to a vote. Not just voting when they do, but helping them shape so they can go to a vote. And then open lines of communication, both with other delegates, so discussing things relevant to the DAO, but also people who delegate tokens to you, and they are your constituents, so they want to know how you're voting. And important, for example, a piece of that a lot of people might be missing, if you're getting your voting power delegated from multiple different people, chances are they are either not caring about how you vote, or even if they do, chances are they're not going to move their delegation away from you. But as was discussed previously in the panel, you might have a delegate being delegated tokens by a single wallet or by 1 or 2 wallets that they are essentially whales. L2Beat, for example, is the second biggest delegate in Arbitrum, and the majority of our voting power, we have 19 million votes, and 15 million of them are coming from a single wallet. So if that person or entity has to be agreeing with how we vote, because if we would do something wrong theoretically for their views and we don't communicate it with them, we might lose our voting power by having them delegate to somebody else. So some practical examples of what it means to be a professional delegate. As L2Beat, we host regular office hours every week, And in those office hours, anybody can join the calls. They are open, and they can communicate with us about different issues in the protocols that we're participating in. Of course, for this screenshot, I had to clear my calendar, because if you saw the entirety of it, you would understand what it takes to be a professional delegate. So many community calls, so many different working group calls, and it would just be a mess. And I wanted to highlight just the office hours. But of course, it's participating in community calls, working group calls, different delegate calls like with each other, and many events that we participate in. Then is maintaining a delegate communication thread in the forums of the respective DAO or protocol you're participating in. In here you can see one from Arbitrum where we share how we voted, and if you click on the link, you typically get to the rationale which we share. So we not only vote, but then we put out a statement of why voted in that way. We do our research, we share our analysis, and everybody can see that publicly in the forums. Then we have either participating or hosting community calls. In the screenshot, you can see me hosting the 8th Open Arbitrum governance call, but if just participating is enough for most delegates. We don't actually have to host, but participating in events like that is important for bringing the discussions forward and helping make decisions. And lastly, it's not just community calls that you have to participate in, but different communication either in person or online with other delegates, with people that are stakeholders in the protocols that you are helping with or participating in. And the image is from a governance workshop we hosted during DevConnect last month in Istanbul in the context of L2 Days, which is an event we co-hosted with Scroll. And some closing remarks regarding the presentation. These are meant to be taken as a suggestion or our understanding of what it means to be a professional delegate with the learnings we have so far. It's meant to be taken as suggestions, not a rule book. And apart from being a delegate, you can participate in governance as a contributor. You don't have to have voting power necessarily, but you can just participate in the different either discussion happening or working groups that are putting together to solve specific issues within DAOs. In Arbitrum, for example, we currently have about 5 or 6 working groups tackling different initiatives, and we need manpower, we need people with skills, and we need people with expertise to help put those things or create solutions to those things. And that's it. You can learn a little bit more about L2Beat and the governance team in the website we have spinned up for that. And you can also consider delegating tokens to L2Beat by scanning the QR code. So that would be my presentation. I'll leave that for a minute or two, and any questions are welcome, of course. Are there any questions?
Thank you for the talk. I was wondering if I have understood correctly that you hire people in order to participate in the DAO. Is that what you're doing?
So, yes, L2Beat has hired me and my colleague Christoph to represent their interest in the DAOs that we participate in. So yes, we are hiring people, or we hired people to do that full time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other question?
But you'll stay on the pizza party in case. It's a complicated topic.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.